with. And so after some of the data that I found in my research was that nature science, looking at the second one, is considered important in understanding science concepts, as well as the fact that the American Association for Advancement of Science and National Research Councils highlighted that it's important that we teach nature science to our students. What's really interesting is that nature science is in the very first chapter in a lot of the science books, but teachers tend to overlook it or skip over it. And then the fourth bullet says nature science instruction should be explicit and reflective, which pretty much explains what I'll be doing with you today. That I should be explicit in the sense of telling you what I expect you to get from the activity or assignment, and I should allow you time to reflect. So it's going to be really important that you participate in this presentation. I'm not a lecturer. I feel that my job is to create an environment or engage an environment where my students get to get out what they think they understand about it or their misconceptions. And then it tells me what I need to do next in order to get them where they need to be. And so my rationale and my research was to investigate the influence of nature science on the understanding of biological evolution. And in this case, we're talking about microevolution as opposed to macro in terms of something like jumping from a rat or a mouse to an elephant kind of situation. But the evolutionary processes that occur within a particular species. My research question: do college non-major students engage in a biological course that includes an explicit and reflective approach to nature science? Whereas I taught two different classes at the simultaneously, one using nature science and one where I just taught a traditional class where I put up the PowerPoints and taught the class, asked the same questions, everything. The only thing that was absent in that class was the nature science influence. And number two was, how does an understanding of nature science relate to students' understanding of the evolutionary concepts? This is my own saying. My motivation is because usually when you ask someone a question, they usually say, I don't know. And so I basically feel like just because you don't know is not a reason not to know, that you have all the tools at your disposal to research, to people that you can talk to come up with the answers that of ones that you don't understand. And this is my methodology. I'm not going to go through all of this in terms of explaining it, but again, I highlight the fact that I use two groups, the notes-rich group and the traditional notes class itself. The pre and post assessments of understanding and acceptance of the group. We won't talk about acceptance at all in this conversation. Undergraduate college students, this was done at a 2-year institution. 40 students in the notes-rich class and 53 students in the traditional class. And so nature science has these tenets or aspects that you have to understand. And if you have any questions, feel free to break in at any time. But this is where you're going to have to participate with me at this point. And so I'll go through the tenets of science itself. And basically what we're doing is characterizing science. Just like we characterize individuals for the police or whatever, like if you had to characterize Shaq, how would you describe him? Shaquille O'Neal, how would you describe him?
Successful businessman.
Okay. Now remember, you're drawing a picture of Shaq so that I will be able to identify him. Okay.
Tall.
Tall. Anyone else? Got tall. Anything else?
Great smile.
I think you said great smile. Pardon?
Athlete.
Okay, he's an athlete, so you would suggest that there's something specific about him in terms of his physique. But great, he might not be smiling at the police after him though, right?
He's bald.
Okay, he's bald. Okay, so you get the point pretty much. And so in describing science, the first thing about science is that it's tentative. Does anybody have an idea of what that means?
Changes.
Okay, yeah, that science changes over time. So can you give me an example of something that has changed over time?
The belief that milk builds strong bones.
You don't believe that? What made you change your mind?
The research that said that you can get vitamin D from other sources, like plant-based sources, as opposed to animal-based.
Okay, so as you collect the new evidence, your view of that belief or theory changed. Okay, anyone else?
The earth is flat.
Okay, all right. And so now you know that it is.
Obviously round. Very cool.
Okay. Okay. So let's bring in some things that you used to believe as a child that you no longer believe, because I'm sure many of you used to believe in Santa Claus, right? Or do you still believe in Santa Claus?
Still believe.
No.
I got you. Well, anyway, the whole point is that science changes over time. And so what impacts that change will be the empirically based. So what do you suppose empirically based means?
It can be measured.
Well, actually the measuring of it is what we're talking about. So what am I speaking of?
Like empirically means it's sort of like you came to a decision, or you tested a hypothesis to come to a decision based on the evidence.
Okay, all right. So somebody said measuring, and you just mentioned the key word, that it will suggest that science is evidence-based.
Yes.
That as we collect evidence, that we will base our views on that new evidence, which will suggest to you also that as we collect that new evidence, and we collect evidence in different ways. So what do we use to collect that evidence?
We observe.
How do you make the observations?
Data.
What do you use to make the observations?
Your senses.
Conduct an experiment.
Hear
Okay,
what you say.
Okay,
Your senses.
what else?
Data.
Samples,
Oh, taking samples. Okay.
sometimes.
Data.
Yeah, it is the data, but there's a mean by which you collect that data. You collect it with your five senses. You can taste it, which might not be a safe thing to do. You can see it, you can hear it, you can feel it, tell the textures of the different things that you're touching. There are ways that we collect the data that we use to collect the data. We also use things like rulers, tools, microscopes, and so forth to collect that data. And so as a result, as we collect that data, the data needs to support the theory that has been concluded from the data itself. Okay, and so another thing that science is inferential, which would suggest that what about the theory? What do we use the evidence for?
To draw conclusion.
Yeah, to draw conclusions. Okay, and so from the data or the evidence, we will draw inferences. Okay, and that inference needs to be supported by the data at all times. And as we collect new evidence, that conclusion, that inference has to be redrawn. Okay, and so there are some inferences that you probably have studied in school that have changed over time. So do you have an idea of any of those things that have changed?
I used to think that the only thing you could do be in the science field is a doctor.
Oh, really? Okay. So now you know better, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. See, many of you, and I'm usually a pauser. I'll wait until someone starts talking to me. Okay. And so if you don't talk to me, then I'm just going to be quiet. And I don't know if you want to be here all day waiting for me to get you to talk to me, but the whole success of this whole process, which is what I go through in my class, is that you talk to me about what you're thinking. And so there are things in your life, doing your science, even within your science education itself, have changed over time. So can you name something?
I used to believe that agriculture was just for farmers.
Oh, okay. And now you know that it's agriculture is for who?
It could be for anybody,
For
you know,
anybody.
because it has different areas where it, have different branches of agriculture. So, growing up as a kid, they say you end up to be a farmer. And, I always thought it was a bad thing until I really saw it. So, yeah, my perspective has changed.
There are a lot of aspects of it as well. I'm learning that a new way because we have an aquaponics farm over in Havana, and we're raising tilapia and growing green leafy vegetables, and we sell those things to the public. But we're also making our compost, and we sell mulch as well. And it's not just a matter of germinating the seeds, but it's a matter of raising the plant so that you can harvest it. And then there are requirements in terms of you being statistically based in your efforts, so that you make sure that you don't make the same mistakes over and over again. You have to take data and analyze it to determine what should I do, how can I improve my processes and stuff. So it does become a different. There are different aspects in terms of farming, especially when my grandfather was coming along, because he was blind, but he ran a farm. He grew corn, pole beans, raised hogs, and everything. And I was really inspired by him in terms of his ability to do something even though he couldn't see. But in getting back to the discussion here, inferential would suggest to you that you used to believe there were 9 planets, and then all of a sudden Pluto was downgraded to a subplanetary object, and as a result of that, there were 8 planets. I guess as of last year, they collected new data from the rover that was passing past Pluto outside of our galaxy. And as a result of that, the data that was sent back now has supported the fact to upgrade Pluto back to being a planet again. Many of you have different things that you've learned over your lifetime, and as a result of that, the inferential thing becomes really important. The other thing is subjectivity, which I don't have in this presentation, but it also suggests to you that science is subjective, which hopefully we'll demonstrate in this presentation, that even though we have our ways of knowing, and our ways of knowing being impacted by different things, that if we look at the same evidence, we will draw different conclusions. And basically, those ways of knowing will be our religion, our education. When you look at our different experiences. I had a student in class who said that it took him 5 times to touch the iron to realize that it was hot and he shouldn't touch it anymore. And so we all learn from our experiences. We learn from our cultures, which I think is really important. And so based upon these things and our different relationships with them, the different things that we learn from them, our opinion or the theories that we draw will be subjective or different from others. The point is, in this whole thing is that, and we're only going to use 2 tenets in this discussion. One, that science is empirically based. and that science is inferential. And this is what these are the only two tenets that I use in my classes. And so my agreement with my students is that as long as they draw an inference that's supported by the evidence, I can't say they're wrong. So now I've kind of opened the box up, because now I'm trying to get them away from accepting the fact, get them away from the fact of thinking that they must remember something in order to answer the question. Basically, what I'm asking them to do is to take the evidence that's been put before them and to draw an inference. And as long as that inference is supported by the evidence, I can't say they're wrong. Any questions? Okay, so you're going to be asked to do this as well. And so in my classes, on my data that I collected, this is a mean comparison in terms of the 35.53 was an understanding of evolution that I collected. The data from that class shows where they fell on the graph. And then the blue is the notes-rich class, or the nature of science class. And as you can see there, the nature of science class pretty much did not, well, they had a lesser understanding of evolution in relationship to the traditional class. And then if you look down at the bottom, the P equals to 0.774 shows that the difference between those two, because of the fact that the 0.774 is greater than the 0.05 value, that this is really an insignificant difference. Whereas if you notice, the notes-rich class, the class that I use nature of science in, not only have a lesser understanding, but their understanding of evolution grew greater than the traditional class itself. And the p-value of 0.015, which is less than that 0.05, should suggest that this is a significant difference. To make this even more relative or more significant, I also did a median comparison as well. And you can see here that those two values kind of fall on top of each other in terms of the significance of it being a difference. Whereas the 80 and 70% shows that there is a significant difference between those two. Okay. And so my the assertions that I made in this whole was that the students engaged in explicit, reflective, nature science specific instruction significantly improved their understanding of the nature science concepts. Alternatively, students engaged in instructions using an implicit approach to the nature science did not improve their understanding of the nature science. So where I did not explicitly make them aware of what I needed them to get from the activities, and I did not necessarily spend a whole lot of time allowing them to be reflective in it and getting their viewpoints out, that they did not get significant understanding of the process. The second assertion was that students in the nature of science rich class section made greater gains in the understanding of evolution than students in their traditional class. And basically, what I need you to take away from this whole thing is that if you learn how to critically think or practice your critical thinking skills and looking at the evidence and making sure that your evidence is supported by that your inference is supported by the evidence, it makes it helps you to become more, it helps you to develop your skills, but also it helps you in your writing skills as well, because now you're in a place where you're able to construct a much better argument, which I find my students really weak in reference to developing. They can draw an inference, but they fail to use the evidence to support it at all. And so we're going to practice some of that in this class, in this discussion today. And so I'm going to skip over this part and ask you if you would go to your phones and use Socrates Student, if you'll Google for that. Mr. Perry, how many minutes did I need to give for questions? Can you tell me?
It's completely up to you. We usually wrap up around 12:15, 12:20.
Okay. All right.
So it's up to you to manage how you
Yes.
want to do it.
All right. Okay. So if everybody will go to Socrates student, the room number is 489457. Okay. Is it okay if I move forward? If not, just say no. Okay. All right. Okay. And so this is excuse me.
Sorry, Sen, I'm good. I'm in.
Okay. All right. Okay. This is the question, the first question, and this is everybody knows it's Michael Jackson, and Michael was getting lighter during his lifetime, and he had a disease called vitiligo, and so this is another picture of someone with vitiligo. The right picture is where he has makeup on. This is a professional reporter, and as his skin cells replace themselves, which your top layer of skin replaces itself every 30 days. The top layer of your skin sloughs off. And so as his skin cells divide and replace themselves, he got lighter. And so this is the description of that. Vitiligo is a condition where a mutation occurs in the skin cell, and the mutation impacts the cell's ability to make melanin. As the mutated cells divide and replaces old cells, the person starts getting lighter in color. Okay. Are there any questions about vitiligo? Has anyone ever experienced seeing someone with vitiligo? Okay, there's a chat going on. So, okay. All right. So
Someone needed the access code. So thank you.
Okay. Just
one people responded.
Yeah. Well, make sure I wasn't overlooking someone. Okay. And so what I'm going to ask you to do is to put your responses up. You probably have already started doing that, but I need to share it. Well, can you see the question already? Hello?
Yeah, yes.
All right.
I could see it.
Okay. So I don't necessarily need, well, I'll go ahead and share it. Okay. And so we have 10 responses now. Okay, so let me pose a question to you based upon the responses, and I think everybody should be able to see them pretty good. Yes, Michael should have been because of it's genetic. Yes, because it might be in his genes, and since the disease came from the skin cells, animal cells, animal or human cells comprised of mitochondria, which consists of genes. Okay, and then yes, I think it is a genetic disease. It is a hereditary condition. Okay, so my question to you is this: where did I tell you that the mutation took place? Hello?
In the skin cells?
In the skin,
Top layer.
skin cells. Okay, so the mutation took place in the skin cells. So which cells in our body are responsible for taking the genetic material to the next generation?
The gametes?
Gametes.
The gametes. So did the mutation occur in the gametes? Did the mutation occur in Michael's sperm cells?
No.
She's got it.
Yeah, but the mutation occurred in his skin cell, not his sex cell. So should he have been concerned about taking that, passing that on to his children?
No.
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 All right. So you can see how additional information can impact you in reference to your subjective views that you've drawn an inference, but the additional information should assist you in making a better inference, or drawing a better inference. And so that's pretty much how I teach my classes. I try and think of ways of engaging them in an activity, I'm trying to go back to my description. Yeah, I think this is it. Engaging them in an activity that helps them to make better sense of figuring it out on their own, in other words, as opposed to me telling them. So hopefully you have a better understanding of the vitiligo, but also how traits are passed on to the next generation. I think that my ability to change. Okay, here you go. So here's another activity. It says understanding the nature of science activity. I have this cube. Here, and I tried to do this a different way. So I'm going to share with you what I attempted to do to show this cube to you by I took pictures of it, in other words. And so this is the cube. And basically all I want you to, this is your evidence, in other words. And all I'm asking you to do is to tell me what's on the bottom of the cube. So in this case, you're going to tell me which one is missing, but you've got to describe it. You just can't say it, you've got to describe it. So I'm going to go back and start another Socrates moment, so you can upload your answers. Just remember that you've got to describe it. You can't. Well, I'm sorry, you can just really answer it. I'll put it that way. So you should be able to see my new post.
Dr. Butler, is the same. It's the same code.
Same code, yes, sir. Same code, 489457. Okay, and I'm going to go back and let you look at the data again, so you can draw that inference.
We change our answer.
You want me to delete something and you can put up another one, or you want to just make you sure you can make a change? I don't know how you can go and actually change what you made it, but you can go in and answer again, I think.
No, doesn't let you.
Won't let you?
Mm-mm.
All right. When we finish, when we come back, you can tell why you want to change it. Okay?
Oh, okay.
Okay, so I'm going to go back to that real quick. Okay, all right. So which one did you want to change?
I want to change the 3 to a 2.
Two?
Start
Okay.
at first.
All right.
So,
Okay. Now remember, you're all in a science classroom, and so the first thing, and see, most little kids would not say what you said, because many of you said 2, and I accept your 2 as a response, a legitimate response. because if you look at the if you look at the presentation or the data itself, you don't see any numbers. Am I correct? And so you're not doing a good job of describing exactly what it is that you think is on the other side. You just wrote a 2. My wife's girlfriend is a math teacher, and she was talking to her daughter, actually teaching how to play cards. And so she told her, this is the 2 of diamonds. And the little girl looked at her and said, Mom, that's not a diamond. She said, well, what is it? She says, it's a rhombus. And so being descriptive in the sense, do you really see a number there, or should it be 2, or should it be something else? Hello? Should it be something else?
Should be 2 dots, actually.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
based on what you're saying, it would be 2 dots.
Okay. And so you're saying dots, but in actuality, those aren't dots because a dot is much smaller than what you see. That's really 2 black
circles. Okay.
Circles, yes.
circles, right? And so in being a scientist, you need to be very descriptive about, in particular about how you describe something, because the people in Australia would think that you had 2 dots when actually you have 2 black circles. Do I make my point?
Yeah.
And so,
Yes.
and so it's kind of hard.
Yes.
It's kind of hard to draw an inference from something when you are saying the number 2, when really it's 2 black circles that I need to be drawing my inference from, because my inference needs to be supported by my evidence. And in most instances, the 2 here is not supported by the evidence. And so as a result of that, I would have to say that that's not a good inference. Okay. All right. So did anybody say 2 black? Well, here's a side with 2 black dots each in a corner. So this will be a somewhat informed response because you said dots instead of circles. Is there anyone that said circles? No? Okay. All right. So again, everything needs to be based upon it. I'm going to do one more if that's okay with you, and then I'll open it up for questions. Okay. All right. Okay. So this is a paper chromatography that I did, and this is a picture of it here. Okay. And basically, what I did was this is a understanding of photosynthesis, and I'm trying to get the students to understand specific points about the process itself. And so we did a paper chromatography where I took a black marker that was water soluble, and I made a black line. I drew a black line across this white strip of paper, and I put it in water. And as the water diffused up, it took these colors up and separated them. So all of these colors here are the colors that make up white light. So white light consists of visible light colors in the electromagnetic spectrum. The 7 colors that are visible to the humans with different wavelengths. Red has the highest, but your orange, the yellows, the greens, the blues, the indigos, and finally violet. Okay, it says colors are determined based upon specific colors that are absorbed or reflected. Okay, so the same colors that you see here, the same colors make up white light. These same colors make up black. So when I see white or I see black, these are the same colors that make them up. And so it says, so my question will be to you, what can you infer about the color black and the color white from the following data? And so I just kind of shared that with you to kind of speed things up. Note that these colors came from the color black as a result of the paper chromatography. Okay? And so this is going to be the inference that I'm asking you, because in the process of photosynthesis, white light shines on the plant. The plant, that energy from the sun is now converted from a radiant energy, the sunlight, to a chemical energy called glucose or sugar. And then we eat the glucose, or the plants eat the glucose and convert it to a chemical energy that we call ATP. And that's what we run, jump, hop, skip on. Okay, so my question will be to you in this whole process is infer, I'm sorry, different one. Infer what color, and we probably could just talk about it instead of you doing a Socrates because of the time, but what color of light is less effective in the process of photosynthesis? What color of light is less effective in the process of photosynthesis?
I would say green.
Okay. Anyone else? Blue?
White.
Pardon? I got a green.
White.
Is white?
Yes.
Okay. Anyone else?
Green as well.
Okay. I got 2 greens.
They all the same.
Blue. I got a blue. And someone said something about,
Violet.
They are the same.
somebody said something about all the same. What do you mean?
Like nobody more effective than another. They are the same.
Excuse me?
No color is effective more than the other.
Oh, okay. No color is effective more than the other. Okay, so why do you say green? Hello?
It's the plant that reflects the green color, therefore they have no use for it.
Yeah, exactly. And so if you think about it, and so again, what you just saw was subjectivity being demonstrated here, that based upon our way of understanding and our levels of understanding the concept itself, that you drew different conclusions. But also the person that chose green is basing their answer based upon the data that's being presented. That green, that the plant is green, that's obviously the color that's being reflected, not being absorbed. And as a result of it, it has nothing to do with the process of photosynthesis. It doesn't drive the process of photosynthesis at all. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So the green would be the best answer in this whole process. Okay, so I guess I will stop there and answer any questions that you may have. I didn't want to overdo an overkill in terms of what I was presenting and sharing to you, but I think the point's been made in terms of science and how you should go about the STEM majors in terms of how you can conduct yourself in your classrooms. The more you become understand that process, and the more you improve your ability to critically write and construct an argument, that it puts you in a much better light, particularly with your grades. Thank you.
Thank you.
Really appreciate this, Dr. Butler. Thank you so much. At this time, are there any questions?
No questions?
Yes, I have a question.
Go ahead.
So you said students should be working on the critical thinking skill so they can be more critical when they write or when they discuss. Do you have like any exercises or any idea to work in this skill first, to help students work on these skills?
I didn't understand the last part, I'm sorry.
Do you have any ideas or suggestions for students how they can work on their critical thinking skills?
Well, I think the more you practice taking the data and then looking at what it says to you, but a lot of times we all have different ways of seeing things. And so it's probably better that you work in a group. I think a STEM major is not a loner situation, that you should be in study groups, analyzing the data together. You make much better, you get better, more opinions about the data. And as a result, you make better decisions about the best answer when you're in that collaborative type environment. I just don't think you can come up with your own way of seeing things and expect for everybody to see what you think sometimes without taking into consideration other people's views. Hopefully that gives you an idea. I really think that you need to be in that collaborative situation where you're asking other people's opinions and discussing it to come up with the best answer.
Okay, thank you.
I had a question about your own personal experiences teaching. I was actually wondering if you've ever posed a question to your students and have received an answer that actually caused you to think differently about the answer to the question itself.
Exactly. That happens every semester, as a matter of fact. It's already happened in the classes that I have now. I have to be careful about the way I instruct because the way it's open up, students can ask me anything. And so I'm going to give you an example of one of those things where this person didn't say something to me that I did not understand before, but she was trying to make a connection about something that she didn't understand. And you got to understand, this is a college student, but she asked a question in my anatomy physiology class: could she get pregnant from participating in oral sex? And naturally, some people looked around really strange and laughed about it. But this girl, 18, 20 years old, was really trying to make a connection. And so I asked you that question. Can a woman get pregnant for participating in oral sex?
I guess that depends on other factors involved.
See, Ivory hid her picture before she asked the question. Okay, all right, and so I, in actuality, I walked the class through it, and so they made the point. So I think you said no, right, Ivory?
Sorry, I have to swipe I'm on my cell phone. No, I was saying I guess it depends on other factors involved.
Okay, what do you mean? What do you mean?
Well, because you said oral sex, but we don't know any of the other parameters. We don't know anything else going on. Is it male? Is it male female? Is it, is there other activities involved? Like, that's a very generic question.
Okay, I forgot. This question is being posed in a different environment now. So, okay, yeah, you're right. I had not thought about that because I'm kind of old school. So, forgive me for that. But this is a male-female relationship. Okay, all right. That's the parameter, and that's the scenario. So, what do you think? And Destiny, is that possible? Rama, is that possible? Joy? Christy?
I would say no, it's not possible because of the biological makeup of the human anatomy. Of course, during oral sex, when the ejaculation occurs, it goes straight into the digestive system. So any type of reproductive cells would be destroyed by acid and wouldn't be broken down for any nutrient benefits, from my understanding.
Okay, and that was the question that I was expecting. But just to answer the question, I think because Ivory proposed the question, there's another answer to this question that's a good response. Okay, and so another answer to the question, if you watch Being Mary Jane, it probably would have shared some information with you that this lady, both of these, and this is a true story, 2 medical students doing their clinical rotations, male is married, the female's not, and they were participating in oral sex. The female, again, a medical doctor, took the sperm, put it in a test tube, and self-impregnated herself. Okay, and after she had the baby, she took the man to court for child support. And their argument was that the sperm was not meant for that purpose. And the courts supported the lady, saying that once you gave it to her, she could do what she wanted to do with it. And as a result, he's now paying child support. So if you use that argument, you could say yes or you could say no. But based upon what you just said, DeMarcus, I would give you 100 for that response because you supported it with the evidence that is pertinent to understanding the concept that there has to be a connection between the digestive system and the reproductive system in order for that process to take place, okay? And there is no connection. Whereas on the other hand, if a person argued that, yes, there is a possibility of the person taking the sperm and taking it to a bank where now a doctor which can now take her egg and fertilize it, and then place the zygote into her womb in order for her to have a baby, it is also possible. There's two good answers to that question.
It's okay. It's not going to get you. Sorry.
Are there any other questions?
So when you teach using the nature of science approach, I guess you have to be less rigid, like in your grading structure. Do you find that you have to adapt and be more fluid in how you review the answers, or are you able to still have an idea of what the answer is and stick to that script and grade accordingly?
I actually have to open my vision a bit in terms of understanding, because people won't say it the way I want them to say it or how I think they should say it. So I have to be open enough to understand what they're saying or to visualize it so that I can give them credit. So no, I don't expect them to say it the way I want them to say. I want them to say it based upon their framework, their way of understanding things. And you have to understand that students it's my responsibility also to build my students' confidence in what they're doing. And by me seeing what they're saying and being big enough to be able to do that, builds their confidence. In one class, I had a student that made a statement and everybody started laughing at him. And I said, you know, really, what you all just did is not cool. I don't think it's not good for this professional setting. But what the student has said, and forgive me for not being able to recall the exact idea, because I did write it down, but I don't have it in front of me right now. But he made such a profound statement that it just went over their head. They thought it was funny. And I said, really, and you'll be surprised at what people will pull out of their hat sometime and say based upon their understanding something. And it's really important that when I grade with the fact that there can be different responses as I just demonstrated, but also that I need to understand that it's being said in a different way. So most of my students will pass my class and I put some information in here. This is how I analyze my class. It's either informed, somewhat informed, or not informed. Okay, and so as you can see, a large number of the people in terms of the concepts actually were informed in their responses. The highlighted ones, less than 50, suggest to me that a large number of my students were not informed, which means that in that particular case, I'm going to go back and address those things in my class, but also they will probably see those questions again on another exam or a quiz. So I analyze my data and that's what's going to drive my instructions as well. Any questions? Any other questions? Mr. Perry, I suppose that either I'm really good or I'm just bad.
No, I think you did. I think you did great. First of all, thank you so much. Can we get like some thumbs up emojis for Dr. Butler, or just thank, however you want to do it, just thank you so much, Dr. Butler. Really appreciate it. I enjoyed your approach and how you did it. It was very interesting, and so for everyone for coming, thank you so much for coming. Don't log off just yet. But again, I just can't thank Dr. Butler enough for doing this. Really do appreciate it.
May I make one more point then?
Sure.
My wife and I have taken this a little further. We have what is called the STEM Gym. This is an advertisement now. We have what's called the STEM Gym. We've created over 50 activities. We actually engage kids in STEM activities and after-school programs and different functions like Jack and Jim, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts. We're now converting all of our activities to video type processes because of COVID, so that the schools can now use those videos with the supplies and conduct those STEM activities as well. So we are taking it further. It is important that you write about what you're doing. So that's what I'm in the process of doing, because my major professor at FSU has been on my case about that for some time. She has an issue with unattended data, as she puts it. So I'm in the process of writing what we're doing. If you look around in the area, we've done this 3 different times. I've taken the nature science to 3 different schools. I worked with 3 teachers for 4 years. In the 4th year at this school, we raised in the course, the biology in the course exam from 6% as an exam to 47%, and we've done that 3 times. The last 2 times we did it, I was working directly with the students. It's hard to get teachers to use the nature of science, but if you go in and apply it from December to April, we were able to get that increase up to 46, 47%, and those teachers, those school grades either went from a B to an A or from an F to a C. So it does work. Sorry. Thank you.
Oh, it's fine. If you want to send over some more, if you want to send some details over to me as well, I'll be happy to pass it along. If you have a PDF of your presentation that you want to share with the students too, but I'll be in touch with you right after this as well. But again, I can't thank you enough. And so be on the lookout for the follow-up email, guys, with additional information. Just another plug for next week's seminar. We are collaborating with Career Services and the Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services. So just be on the lookout for the link. It's going to be different from what we usually use. Again, all thank you so much for coming out, and we'll see you next week. Take care. All right. Does anyone have any questions? Does anyone have any questions for me?
No, thank you, Siddiqui.